Audiobook The Etheric Shield by the Third Library. Introduction. There is a moment that every sensitive person knows intimately. You walk into a room where an argument just occurred, and suddenly your chest tightens. Your stomach churns with anxiety that was not yours 30 seconds ago. The air feels thick, almost suffocating, and you absorb the residue of someone else's fury like a cloth soaking up spilled wine. Most people call this empathy. They speak of it with reverence, as though the ability to feel everything is a spiritual gift. The Third Library does not share this romantic view. What you are experiencing is not a superpower, it is permeability. It is the failure of your energetic immune system to distinguish between self and other, between your emotional state and the psychic debris floating through the atmosphere like invisible pollution. Consider the mechanics of a living cell. Every cell in your body is surrounded by a membrane, a sophisticated barrier that controls what enters and what exits. This membrane is not a wall, it is a gatekeeper. It allows nutrients to flow inward while keeping toxins at bay. A cell with a compromised membrane becomes sick. It swells with contamination. Eventually it dies, poisoned by substances it should have rejected at the threshold. Your soul operates under identical principles. The aura, that electromagnetic field generated by your nervous system and consciousness, functions as the membrane of your energetic body. When this membrane is strong and dense, you move through the world protected, filtering experiences through your own sovereign lens. When this membrane is weak, torn, or porous, you become a sponge for every ambient emotion, every low-vibration thought form, every vampiric attachment that crosses your path. The culture has taught you to celebrate your sensitivity. You have been told that feeling deeply is evidence of a pure heart, that absorbing the pain of others makes you compassionate. This is a dangerous lie. Uncontrolled sensitivity is not compassion. It is a wound presenting itself as wisdom. A nurse does not cure patients by catching their diseases. A lifeguard does not save drowning people by jumping in without a flotation device. True service to others requires boundaries. It demands that you maintain your structural integrity so that you have something solid to offer. A collapsed lighthouse cannot guide ships to shore. A depleted healer cannot heal. You have mistaken your inability to protect yourself for spiritual advancement, and this confusion has cost you years of vitality, clarity, and peace. The etheric shield is not a metaphor. It is the name given by ancient mystery schools to the fortified aura, the energetic architecture that surrounds a person who has learned to seal their perimeter. This shield does not make you cold or disconnected. It makes you functional. It transforms you from a victim of circumstance into a sovereign being who chooses what to let in and what to deflect. You will still feel. You will still love. You will still connect deeply with others. But you will do so from a position of strength rather than vulnerability, from choice rather than compulsion. The techniques contained in this text are not theoretical philosophy. They are practical operations, tools drawn from the intersection of bioenergetics, psychology, and the oldest traditions of mental discipline. You're not meant to be a sponge, soft and absorbent, wrung out daily by the careless hands of a world that does not understand what it takes from you. You are meant to be a diamond. Diamonds are formed under pressure, yes, but they emerge impenetrable, their structure so perfect that nothing can scratch their surface. They do not absorb the darkness around them. They refract light. They take whatever strikes them and transform it into brilliance. This is your natural state, the condition your energetic body is designed to achieve when properly maintained. The fact that you currently feel porous, vulnerable, and exhausted by proximity to others is not evidence of your nature. It is evidence of neglect. You have not been taught to care for your spiritual skin. You have not been shown how to repair the tears or strengthen the weak points. This audiobook is the repair kit. Every chapter is a tool. Every technique is a patch for a specific type of damage. You will learn to identify where your aura has been compromised. You will discover how to seal the leaks, sever the draining attachments, and build a field so strong that negativity bounces off like rain on a properly sealed roof. You will understand the mechanics of energy exchange, the physics that govern why some people leave you feeling elevated, while others leave you feeling like you need 3 days in bed to recover. Most importantly, You will stop interpreting your exhaustion as a moral failing or a sign that you are not spiritual enough. The problem is not your soul. The problem is that you have been operating with the energetic equivalent of open wounds, walking through a world full of salt. The path forward requires you to abandon certain cherished illusions. You must stop romanticizing your pain. You must release the identity of the wounded healer, the martyr who suffers beautifully for others. That story is a cage, and it keeps you weak. Strength is not the same as hardness. A well-maintained shield does not cut you off from love. It protects your capacity to love by ensuring you have reserves to draw from. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. Every spiritual tradition that has survived for millennia understands this principle. The Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree surrounded by an energetic field, so powerful that the demon Mara could not penetrate it. Jesus fasted in the desert for 40 days, fortifying his consciousness against temptation, building internal sovereignty before he attempted to serve others. The shamans of every culture perform purification rituals before entering sacred work, clearing their field so that they can act as clean channels. You are about to learn what they knew. The knowledge is not hidden because it is secret. It is hidden because most people are not ready to accept responsibility for their energetic state. It is easier to blame others for how you feel, to point to the narcissist or the energy vampire and claim victimhood. But victimhood is a choice, and it is a choice that keeps you trapped in permeability. The moment you accept that your aura is your responsibility, that its strength or weakness is the result of your habits, your boundaries, and your daily maintenance, you step into power. You become the guardian of the gate. No one enters your energetic space without your permission. No thought form, no emotion, no psychic hook can penetrate a field that is consciously maintained and deliberately fortified. The techniques you are about to learn have been tested across centuries, refined by practitioners who understood that consciousness operates according to laws as predictable as physics. These are not superstitions, they are technologies. The golden egg visualization is a command to your subconscious to filter incoming data. The cord-cutting ritual is a psychological operation that severs lingering attachments by addressing them at the level where they actually exist, in the neural patterns that keep recreating the connection. The salt bath is not magic. It is a method of discharging accumulated static electricity and resetting your nervous system to baseline. Every practice in this text is grounded in the understanding that your aura is a real measurable phenomenon, and that what happens in the energetic realm has direct consequences in your physical and emotional experience. Prepare yourself for a shift in perspective. You are not learning how to be more sensitive. You are learning how to be more selective. You are not opening yourself wider to the world. You are learning to close the door on what does not serve you. This may feel counterintuitive at first, especially if you have spent years believing that spiritual growth means becoming more permeable, more available, more willing to take on the burdens of others. That teaching has left you depleted. It has made you sick. The third library offers a different path, one that honors your energetic sovereignty as the foundation of all genuine spiritual work. You cannot serve the world from a state of collapse. You cannot offer light when your own reserves are drained. The etheric shield is how you protect your flame so that it can burn bright enough to illuminate the path for others. This is not a journey of avoidance. You are not learning to hide from life or to become numb to suffering. You are learning discernment. You are developing the capacity to stand in the presence of chaos without becoming chaotic, to witness pain without absorbing it into your own body, to offer compassion without sacrificing your vitality on the altar of someone else's dysfunction. This requires strength. It requires discipline. It requires you to value your own energy as much as you value the energy of others. For too long, you have been taught that self-care is selfish, that protecting yourself is a failure of love. The opposite is true. The most generous thing you can do for the world is to maintain your own structural integrity so that you have something real to offer when it is needed. The work begins now. Each chapter is a layer of fortification. Each practice is a stone in the wall you are building around your sacred core. You will not complete this work in a single sitting. The strengthening of the aura is a process, a daily practice that becomes as routine as brushing your teeth. But unlike dental hygiene, which society taught you from childhood, no one showed you how to cleanse your energetic field. You have been walking through life with the spiritual equivalent of rotting teeth, wondering why everything hurts. The pain is not inevitable. It is the result of neglect, and neglect can be corrected. The etheric shield is your instruction manual. Follow it with precision. Apply the techniques with discipline, and watch as your life transforms from a state of constant overwhelm to one of centered sovereign power. You are not broken. You are not cursed with a sensitivity that makes normal life impossible. You are simply operating without the proper defenses, and defenses can be built. The membrane of your soul can be repaired, the tears can be sealed, the leaks can be stopped. And when your field is strong, when your boundaries are clear, when your aura is dense and radiant, you will discover something extraordinary. The world does not become darker when you stop absorbing its darkness. It becomes clearer. You see it as it is, without the distortion of your own contamination. And from that clarity, you can act with true power, true compassion, and true effectiveness. The work begins with a single decision: to value your energy as the precious resource it is, to guard it fiercely, and to never again apologize for protecting what is yours. Welcome to the teaching. The gate is yours to guard. Chapter 1. The mechanics of the aura. Before you can repair something, you must understand what it is. The aura is not a mystical abstraction conjured by New Age fantasy. It is a measurable phenomenon, documented by biofield researchers, photographed through Kirlian imaging, and detected by sensitive instruments designed to measure electromagnetic frequencies. Every living organism generates an electromagnetic field as a byproduct of its nervous system and cellular metabolism. Your heart produces the strongest electromagnetic signal in your body, one that can be detected several feet away with the right equipment. Your brain generates waves that ripple outward into space. Even the individual cells in your body emit photons, tiny particles of light that contribute to the overall luminescence of your biofield. This is not poetry. This is physics. The aura, in its most fundamental sense, is the electromagnetic bubble that surrounds your physical body. In a healthy, balanced individual, this field extends approximately 3 to 6 feet in all directions, forming an elliptical shape that some traditions call the egg of life. This field is not uniform. It has layers, densities, and fluctuations that correspond to your physical health, emotional state, mental clarity, and spiritual alignment. When you are rested, grounded, and centered, your aura is dense, coherent, and tightly woven. It functions like a properly inflated balloon, with a clear boundary between inside and outside. When you are depleted, frightened, traumatized, or intoxicated, your aura shrinks, thins, and develops gaps. These gaps are not metaphorical. They are regions where the field weakens, where the electromagnetic coherence breaks down, creating openings that allow external influences to penetrate. Think of your aura as the skin of your energetic body. Just as your physical skin protects you from bacteria, viruses, and environmental toxins, your auric field protects you from psychic contaminants, low-vibration thought forms, emotional projections from others, and predatory attachments that feed on your energy. When your skin is intact, you remain healthy. When you have a cut or a wound, infection can enter. The same principle applies to your biofield. A tear in the aura is an open door, an invitation for dysfunction to take root in your system. These tears do not heal on their own, any more than a deep cut heals without cleaning and stitching. They require conscious intervention, deliberate repair, and ongoing maintenance. The causes of auric damage are well documented once you understand what you're looking for. Trauma is the most common culprit. When you experience a shock to your system, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, your nervous system goes into a state of hyperarousal or collapse. In that moment, your electromagnetic field destabilizes. It flares outward in panic or contracts inward in defense, and in the process, it can tear. A single traumatic event can leave a lasting gap in your field, a weak spot that remains vulnerable for years unless it is addressed. Chronic stress has a similar effect. gradually eroding the coherence of your biofield, the way constant wind erodes a cliff face. Over time, the boundary weakens, thins, and develops micro-tears that allow ambient negativity to seep through. Substance use is another primary mechanism of auric compromise. Alcohol, recreational drugs, and certain pharmaceutical medications alter your brain chemistry in ways that temporarily disrupt the electromagnetic field. Users often report feeling open or expanded under the influence, but what they are actually experiencing is permeability. The field weakens, the boundaries dissolve, and suddenly they are vulnerable to entities, thought forms, and energies they would normally be protected from. This is why intoxication often leads to poor decisions, why people become susceptible to manipulation when drunk, why certain drugs invite experiences that feel like possession. The protective barrier has been chemically disabled, and the sovereign territory of your consciousness has been left unguarded. Sleep deprivation produces a similar effect. Your biofield requires rest to maintain its integrity. During deep sleep, the body performs repair work on the electromagnetic field, just as it repairs tissue and consolidates memory. When you are chronically underslept, your aura becomes ragged, frayed at the edges like old fabric. You become irritable, emotionally reactive, and hypersensitive to your environment because your protective buffer has thinned. The world feels harsher, not because the world has changed, but because you are experiencing it without adequate shielding. Every sound is louder, every criticism cuts deeper, every negative interaction leaves a mark because there is no cushion between you and the impact. Emotional volatility also destabilizes the field. When you swing rapidly between emotional extremes, rage to despair, euphoria to anxiety, your electromagnetic signature becomes erratic. The field pulses and flickers like a malfunctioning light bulb. In this state, you are easy prey for energy vampires who know how to trigger emotional reactions. They poke you, watch your field spike with anger or fear, and feed on the energetic discharge. The more reactive you are, the more vulnerable you become. Emotional regulation, therefore, is not just a psychological skill. It is an energetic defense mechanism. A stable emotional state produces a stable biofield, and a stable biofield is far more difficult to penetrate or drain. The modern environment is particularly hostile to auric integrity. You are surrounded by electromagnetic pollution, Wi-Fi signals, cell phone radiation, power lines, and electronic devices that flood your space with frequencies that interfere with your natural biofield. While the direct health effects of this pollution are still debated, the energetic effects are observable to anyone who pays attention. Spend 8 hours in front of multiple screens in a fluorescent-lit office and notice how scattered and depleted you feel by the end of the day. Your field has been bombarded, fragmented by competing frequencies that disrupt its natural coherence. This is why nature is restorative. In a forest or by the ocean, you are surrounded by organic coherent frequencies, Schumann resonances, the electromagnetic pulse of the Earth itself, that help your biofield recalibrate and strengthen. Understanding the mechanics of the aura allows you to stop taking energetic damage personally. When you walk into a room and feel suddenly anxious, it is not necessarily because you are anxious. It may be because your weakened field is picking up and amplifying the anxiety already present in the space. When a certain person consistently leaves you feeling drained, it is not because you are weak or flawed. It is because that person's field is extracting energy from yours through a mechanism as real as physical touch. The problem is not your sensitivity. The problem is that your protective barrier is compromised, and you have not been taught how to repair it. Once you understand that the aura is a tangible physical phenomenon governed by consistent principles, you can begin to treat it with the same care you would treat any other vital system in your body. The density of your field correlates directly with your state of consciousness. A person operating from fear, victim consciousness, and reactivity generates a weak, chaotic field. A person operating from centeredness, purpose, and self-mastery generates a strong, coherent field. This is why certain individuals seem untouchable by drama. They are not lucky. They are not naturally blessed with thicker skin. They have, whether consciously or unconsciously, learned to maintain a dense auric field that does not allow low-vibration influences to penetrate. You can see this in martial artists, in experienced meditators, in people who have done deep trauma work. There is a presence about them, a sense of solidity that comes from having a well-maintained energetic boundary. The good news is that the biofield is responsive. Unlike bone, which takes months to heal, the electromagnetic field can be strengthened in days with the right practices. Visualization techniques work because your brain does not distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. When you visualize your aura as a golden shell of light, your nervous system receives that instruction and begins to organize the field accordingly. Breathwork, grounding exercises, and somatic practices help stabilize the nervous system, which in turn stabilizes the biofield. The more you work with these tools, the more automatic they become, until maintaining a strong field is as natural as maintaining good posture. You must also understand that your field is in constant interaction with other fields. When two people stand close to each other, their biofields overlap. If both fields are strong and coherent, the interaction is neutral or even mutually enhancing. If one field is strong and the other is weak, energy flows from the strong to the weak, like water seeking equilibrium. If one field is predatory, organized around extraction rather than exchange, it actively drains the other. This is the mechanism behind energy vampirism, which we will explore in depth in later chapters. For now, simply recognize that every interaction is an energetic transaction, and you are either gaining, losing, or maintaining energetic equilibrium based on the relative strength and coherence of the fields involved. The goal of this work is not to build an impenetrable wall. That would be isolation, and isolation is death by another name. The goal is to develop a semi-permeable membrane, one that allows love, beauty, inspiration, and genuine connection to pass through while blocking predation, manipulation, emotional contagion, and psychic debris. Think of it as upgrading from a screen door to a door with a peephole and a deadbolt. You can still open the door. You can still invite people in, but you are no longer leaving it wide open for anything and anyone to wander through unannounced. This distinction is critical. The etheric shield does not make you cold. It makes you discerning. Your aura is your first line of defense and your primary interface with reality. Everything you perceive, every emotion you feel, every thought you think is filtered through this field. When the field is damaged, your perception becomes distorted. You feel things that are not yours. You react to threats that do not exist. You exhaust yourself fighting battles that were never about you. Repairing the field restores clarity. It allows you to see reality as it is, not as a projection of your own contamination. This clarity is the foundation of power. You cannot make effective decisions when you are drowning in ambient anxiety. You cannot build a meaningful life when you are constantly reacting to other people's chaos. The repair begins with understanding that the aura is real, that it can be damaged, and that you have the tools to fix it. In the chapters that follow, you will learn those tools. You will discover how to identify tears, seal leaks, and fortify weak points. You will practice techniques that strengthen the field daily, building energetic resilience the way physical exercise builds muscle. But first, you must internalize this foundational truth. The aura is not a superstition. It is the electromagnetic membrane of your consciousness, and its health determines the quality of your life. Treat it with the respect it deserves. Guard it with the vigilance it requires. And never again dismiss energetic damage as something you should simply tolerate because you are sensitive. Sensitivity without boundaries is not a gift. It is a liability, and liabilities must be addressed before they destroy you. The mechanics are clear. The principles are consistent. The only question remaining is whether you will take responsibility for maintaining your field or continue to suffer under the delusion that your exhaustion is inevitable. The choice, as always, is yours. Chapter 2. The Empath's Curse. The word empath has been weaponized by a culture that does not understand the difference between genuine compassion and uncontrolled permeability. Walk into any online community dedicated to empaths, and you will find thousands of people celebrating their suffering. wearing their emotional overwhelm like a badge of spiritual superiority. They speak of absorbing the pain of the world as though this makes them more evolved, more connected, more divinely appointed to heal humanity. The third library offers a harsher assessment. Uncontrolled empathy is not enlightenment, it is a disability. It is the inability to distinguish between your emotional state and the emotional states of others, and this inability makes you fundamentally non-functional in a world that requires boundaries to navigate. Consider what happens when you encounter a person in distress. If that person is sad and you immediately become sad, you have not helped them. You have simply doubled the amount of sadness in the room. 2 people drowning is not better than 1 person drowning and 1 person capable of throwing a life preserver. True compassion requires distance. It requires that you maintain your own emotional equilibrium so that you can offer stability to someone who has lost theirs. A therapist who absorbs their client's depression becomes useless. A doctor who faints at the sight of blood cannot perform surgery. The professional boundary is not a failure of caring. It is the prerequisite for effective intervention. The empath's mistake is believing that feeling what others feel is the same as understanding what others feel. These are not the same. Understanding requires observation, analysis, and the mental space to process information without being overwhelmed by it. When you're drowning in someone else's emotional state, you cannot think clearly about their situation. You are too busy managing your own dysregulation to offer meaningful insight. This is why the most effective healers, counselors, and leaders are not empaths in the contemporary sense of the word. They are people who have learned to empathize without merging, to witness suffering without becoming sufferers themselves. They stand on the shore and throw the rope. They do not jump into the riptide out of misguided solidarity. The cultural narrative around empathy has done immense damage by suggesting that the ability to maintain boundaries is evidence of coldness or emotional unavailability. The opposite is true. Boundaries are what allow sustainable connection. Without boundaries, relationships become parasitic. One person drains, the other depletes, and eventually both collapse. The empath who prides themselves on being endlessly available inevitably burns out, becomes resentful, and retreats into isolation. They mistake this pattern for proof of their unique sensitivity when it is actually proof of their failure to protect themselves. The cycle repeats because the underlying issue, permeability, has never been addressed. Permeability manifests in predictable ways. You walk into a crowded space and feel immediately overwhelmed, not because the space is objectively overwhelming, but because your field is absorbing the ambient emotional frequencies without filtration. You spend an hour with a friend who is going through a crisis, and you leave feeling like you need a week to recover, not because you are a caring person, but because you took on their emotional load as though it were your own. You scroll through social media and find yourself enraged by stories that have nothing to do with your life, not because you are socially conscious, but because your nervous system cannot distinguish between a real threat in your environment and a curated narrative designed to provoke outrage. This is not empathy. This is contagion. Emotional contagion is a well-documented psychological phenomenon in which emotions spread through groups like viruses. Mirror neurons in your brain automatically mimic the emotional states of people around you, a useful evolutionary adaptation that helps social cohesion but becomes pathological when your nervous system lacks the capacity to filter or regulate the mimicry. A healthy person experiences the mirroring and then returns to baseline. A person with compromised boundaries experiences the mirroring and gets stuck in the borrowed emotion, sometimes for hours or days. They become infected, and they do not know how to clear the infection. The empath's curse is compounded by the fact that many empaths are also people pleasers, and people pleasing is a trauma response that masquerades as kindness. The people pleaser says yes when they mean no, agrees when they disagree, and absorbs abuse without protest because they have learned that their value is contingent on their usefulness to others. This is not compassion. This is the fawn response, a survival strategy developed in childhood when saying no or asserting boundaries resulted in punishment, withdrawal of love, or abandonment. The adult empath continues this pattern, unconsciously seeking validation by making themselves indispensable, never realizing that this behavior trains others to exploit them. Energy vampires can smell a weak boundary from across the room. They are drawn to empaths the way predators are drawn to wounded prey. The vampire does not need to be consciously malicious. Most vampires are simply people who have learned that they feel better after certain interactions and worse after others. They do not understand the mechanics, but they follow the feeling. They seek out the person who always listens, who never pushes back, who absorbs their complaints without resistance. The empath, desperate to be needed, accepts this role. They tell themselves they are helping. They are not. They are enabling dysfunction while destroying their own vitality in the process. Breaking free from the empath's curse requires a fundamental reframe. You must stop equating your worth with your capacity to absorb suffering. You must recognize that your inability to protect yourself is not evidence of a pure heart. It is evidence of a wounded nervous system that never learned safety. The repair begins with a simple but radical practice, learning to sit with your own emotions without immediately seeking relief through caretaking. When you feel the urge to fix, save, or rescue someone, pause. Notice the discomfort in your body. Recognize that your compulsion to intervene is often about soothing your own anxiety rather than genuinely serving the other person. You must also confront the identity you have built around being the helper. For many empaths, the role of caretaker is the only role in which they feel valuable. Strip that away and they face a terrifying void. Who am I if I am not needed? This is the core wound that must be healed. Your value is not contingent on your usefulness to others. You are not a tool to be picked up and discarded based on someone else's convenience. You are a sovereign being whose primary responsibility is to maintain your own structural integrity so that you can move through the world as a source of strength rather than a bottomless pit of need pretending to be service. The cultivation of true compassion begins with self-compassion. You cannot offer to others what you do not possess yourself. If you are constantly depleted, if you resent the people you claim to be helping, if you feel taken advantage of and unappreciated, these are symptoms of a system in collapse. The solution is not to try harder, to give more, to sacrifice further. The solution is to stop. Rebuild your boundaries. Learn to say no without guilt. Allow people to experience the consequences of their choices without rushing in to cushion every fall. This is not cruelty. This is respect. You respect others enough to let them be responsible for their own lives, and you respect yourself enough to stop volunteering for crucifixion. Empathy, properly understood, is the ability to recognize and understand the emotions of another person while maintaining awareness of your own separate emotional state. It is a bridge, not a merger. You can stand on your side of the bridge and look across to see what someone else is experiencing without abandoning your own ground. This requires practice. It requires that you develop the habit of checking in with yourself during interactions. What am I feeling right now? Is this mine? Or did I pick this up from the person in front of me? If it's not mine, can I set it down? These questions are not cold or clinical. They are the questions of a person who understands that clarity is the foundation of genuine help. The empath's curse lifts the moment you accept that you are not responsible for managing other people's emotional states. You are not required to absorb their pain to prove you care. You are not failing them by maintaining your own boundaries. In fact, you are serving them far more effectively by modeling what healthy emotional regulation looks like. When you stop collapsing into other people's dysfunction, you create space for them to step into their own power. When you stop rescuing, you allow growth. When you stop merging, you make room for authentic connection based on mutual respect rather than codependent entanglement. This chapter is the turning point. You can continue to wear your permeability as a crown, telling yourself that your suffering is noble, or you can recognize it as the burden it is and learn to set it down. The choice will define the trajectory of your life. One path leads to burnout, resentment, and a slow erosion of self. The other leads to sovereignty, clarity, and the capacity to offer real support from a place of overflow rather than depletion. The etheric shield does not make you less caring. It makes you capable of caring sustainably, which is the only kind of caring that matters in the long run. The curse is not empathy itself. The curse is believing that you are supposed to drown alongside everyone else. You are not. You are supposed to learn to swim so well that you can pull others to shore without going under yourself. The work begins when you stop glorifying your exhaustion and start building the boundaries that will save your life. Chapter 3. Energy. Vampires. Not all vampires drink blood. The ones you need to worry about feed on something far more precious, your life force. They do not lurk in shadows or announce their presence with fangs. They sit across from you at dinner. They call you at midnight with emergencies that are never quite emergencies. They dominate conversations, manufacture crises, and leave you feeling like you need 3 days of silence to recover from a single interaction. You know these people. You have tried to help them. You have listened to the same story 17 times. You have offered solutions they never implement, and despite your best efforts, they never improve. This is not accidental. Their dysfunction is not a problem they want solved. It is the mechanism through which they feed. The energy vampire operates on a simple principle. They feel better after extracting an emotional reaction from you. This extraction is called Loosh in certain esoteric traditions, a term for the energetic discharge that occurs when you experience a spike in emotion. Fear, anger, sympathy, outrage. These intense states cause your field to flare, releasing energy that the vampire absorbs like second-hand smoke. They do not do this consciously in most cases. They simply notice that they feel more alive, more energized, more real after certain interactions, and they unconsciously engineer situations designed to produce those interactions. They become addicted to the hit, and you become their supply. There are 3 primary archetypes of energy vampire, though individuals often blend characteristics from multiple types. The first is the narcissist. The narcissist lacks a stable sense of self and requires constant external validation to maintain their fragile ego structure. They need you to see them as special, brilliant, victimized, or superior. Every conversation circles back to them. They hijack your stories to tell their own. They manufacture drama to ensure they remain the center of attention. When you fail to provide the admiration they crave, they punish you with coldness, rage, or silent treatment. The narcissist feeds on your attention, and they will do whatever it takes to keep that attention focused on them. The second archetype is the victim. The professional victim has constructed their entire identity around suffering. They collect grievances the way others collect stamps. Every misfortune is further evidence of how unfair the world is, how unlucky they are, how nobody understands their unique pain. They tell the same stories of betrayal, injustice, and hardship on repeat, not because they want to heal, but because the telling itself generates sympathy, and sympathy is their drug. If you offer solutions, they explain why those solutions will not work. If circumstances improve, they find new problems. The victim feeds on your compassion, and they will drain it endlessly because compassion without boundaries is an infinite resource they have learned to exploit. The third archetype is the drama queen or drama king. This vampire thrives on chaos. Life is a series of emergencies, betrayals, and catastrophes. They are always in the middle of a crisis that requires your immediate attention. They call you sobbing at 2 in the morning. They text you frantic messages that demand instant replies. They create urgency where none exists because urgency forces you to react, and your reaction is their food. The drama vampire feeds on the adrenaline spike they induce in you, the way your nervous system floods with cortisol when they present their latest disaster. They are not interested in calm. Calm means they are invisible, and invisibility is death to someone whose sense of aliveness depends on generating reactions. What all 3 archetypes share is an inability or unwillingness to generate their own energy internally. A healthy person derives vitality from purpose, creativity, meaningful work, physical health, and authentic connection. The vampire has not developed these capacities. They have learned instead to extract vitality from others, and they have become skilled at identifying who will tolerate the extraction. They zero in on empaths, on people-pleasers, on anyone whose boundaries are weak enough to penetrate. Once they have latched on, they do not let go easily. The relationship becomes a loop. They create a problem, you respond, they feel better, The problem persists and the cycle begins again. The mechanism of vampirism is the psychic hook. The vampire throws out bait, a complaint, a crisis, a provocation, and waits for you to bite. The moment you bite, the moment you react with concern, anger, or sympathy, the hook is set. Energy flows from you to them through the connection, and they experience relief. You, meanwhile, feel drained. Your chest tightens, your stomach knots. You leave the interaction feeling like you have been wrung out, and you cannot quite explain why. You tell yourself you were just being a good friend, a supportive partner, a caring colleague. But good support should not leave you feeling like you have been mugged. The etheric shield prevents the hook from landing. When your field is strong and your boundaries are clear, the vampire's bait floats past you without catching. They complain, and instead of rushing to fix, you acknowledge without absorbing. They manufacture crisis, and instead of panicking, you remain calm. They provoke, and instead of reacting, you observe. This is not coldness. This is sovereignty. You are choosing not to participate in the feeding cycle. Without your reaction, they do not get fed. And when they do not get fed, they either escalate to test your boundaries or they move on to someone with weaker defenses. Escalation is predictable. When a vampire realizes their usual tactics are not working, they intensify. The narcissist rages. The victim becomes more pitiful. The drama vampire creates a bigger crisis. This escalation is a test. They are checking to see if your boundary is real or if it can be breached with enough pressure. This is the moment where most people fold. They feel guilty. They tell themselves that maybe this time the crisis is real, that maybe this time the person genuinely needs help. They drop the boundary, rush back in, and the feeding resumes. Do not fold. The escalation is proof that your boundary is working. Hold the line. You must also recognize that vampires do not feed exclusively on strangers. Some of the most draining relationships in your life may be with family members, romantic partners, or long-term friends. These are the hardest vampires to deal with because severing the connection feels like betrayal. You have history. You have shared experiences. You tell yourself that they are not that bad, that everyone has flaws, that you should be more patient. Meanwhile, you are exhausted every time you see them. You dread their calls. You feel relief when plans get cancelled. These are not signs of your inadequacy. These are signs that the relationship is extracting more than it returns. The ethical question arises, is it cruel to withdraw from someone who is suffering? The answer depends on whether your presence is actually helping. If your involvement enables their dysfunction, if they use you as an emotional crutch that prevents them from developing their own coping skills, then your withdrawal is the kindest thing you can do. It forces them to either develop internal resources or seek help elsewhere. You are not responsible for saving people who refuse to save themselves. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. These sound like platitudes until you internalize them as operational principles. Then they become the boundaries that preserve your life. Cutting cords with vampires requires more than physical distance. You must also sever the energetic attachment, the invisible tubes of connection that link your solar plexus to theirs. We will explore the cord-cutting ritual in depth in Chapter 5. For now, understand that every time you think about the vampire with frustration, guilt, or longing, you are feeding the cord. Every time you replay old conversations, rehearse what you should have said, or imagine future confrontations, you are maintaining the connection. Mental and emotional detachment must accompany physical separation, or the drain continues even when you are miles apart. Some vampires are situational rather than relational. You may work with someone who drains you, live near someone whose energy pollutes your space, or share a social circle with someone you cannot completely avoid. In these cases, the etheric shield becomes essential. You cannot change the vampire's behavior, but you can control your response to it. You can refuse to engage. You can maintain polite but firm boundaries. You can visualize your field as impenetrable to their hooks. Over time, they will learn that you are not a viable food source, and they will invest their energy elsewhere. The most insidious vampires are the ones who cloak their extraction in spirituality. They speak of twin flames, soul contracts, and karmic lessons to justify their invasive behavior. They claim that your resistance to their demands is evidence of your spiritual immaturity, that a truly evolved person would meet their needs without question. This is manipulation dressed in enlightenment language. A genuine spiritual connection uplifts both parties. It does not leave one person depleted while the other thrives. If someone uses spiritual language to guilt you into abandoning your boundaries, they are not your teacher. They are your parasite. Protecting yourself from vampires is not an act of aggression. It is an act of self-preservation. You do not owe your energy to anyone. You do not owe access to your field, your time, or your emotional labor simply because someone demands it. The vampire will accuse you of being selfish, cold, or uncaring when you refuse to feed them. Let them. Their opinion of you is not your responsibility to manage. Your responsibility is to protect your vitality so that you have something real to offer to people and projects that genuinely merit your investment. The final truth about energy vampires is that they cannot survive on your energy alone. They burn through it quickly because it is borrowed, not generated. A vampire who drains you today will need to drain someone else tomorrow. The feeding never ends because it does not address the core issue, their inability to produce their own vitality. You cannot fix this for them. You cannot love them into wholeness. You cannot sacrifice enough to fill a void that is meant to be filled from within. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you can stop participating in a dynamic that destroys you while changing nothing about them. Build the shield, hold the boundary, let the hooks fall away. And watch how much of your life returns when you stop giving it away to people who would never protect it the way you are now learning to protect it yourself. Chapter 4. The Technique of the Golden Egg. Visualization is not fantasy. It is a command issued to the most powerful computer in the known universe, your subconscious mind. The subconscious does not distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you visualize yourself performing an action, the motor cortex of your brain fires in the same patterns it would if you were physically performing that action. Athletes use this principle to improve performance. Surgeons use it to rehearse complex procedures. You will use it to construct an energetic boundary that functions as effectively as a physical wall. Perhaps more so, because this wall exists at the level where most violations actually occur, in the realm of thought, emotion, and electromagnetic frequency. The golden egg is the foundation of the etheric shield. It is a visualization practice so simple that it can be completed in under 2 minutes, yet so effective that it can transform your entire energetic experience of reality. Before you leave your home each morning, before you enter a challenging interaction, before you step into any environment where you anticipate energetic contamination, you will construct the egg. The practice is as follows. Sit or stand in a comfortable position. Close your eyes if you are able, though this is not strictly necessary once the technique becomes habitual. Take 3 deep breaths, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. On the 3rd exhale, begin the visualization. See yourself surrounded by a luminous golden shell, an egg of light that extends approximately 3 feet beyond your physical body in all directions. The shell is not transparent. It is solid, dense, radiant. The gold is not pale or washed out. It is rich, metallic, the color of sunlight reflected on polished brass. This egg surrounds you completely, above your head, below your feet, in front, behind, and to each side. There are no gaps. There are no thin spots. The shell is uniform in thickness, and the thickness is substantial. You are not imagining a fragile membrane. You are constructing a fortress made of coherent light. As you hold this image in your mind, assign it a function. This is critical. The egg is not merely decorative, it is a filter. Silently state the command. This shield is semi-permeable. Love, beauty, inspiration, and genuine connection can pass through. Negativity, manipulation, projection, and psychic attack bounce off and return to their source. You are programming the subconscious to filter incoming data according to these criteria. The subconscious takes instructions literally. When you tell it that negativity bounces off, it will begin organizing your perceptions, reactions, and electromagnetic field to make this true. Hold the visualization for at least 30 seconds, though a full minute is better. Feel the weight of the shell. Notice how it creates a sense of enclosure, not in a claustrophobic way, but in the way a well-built house creates shelter. You are inside something solid. You are protected. The world can swirl around you in chaos, but inside the egg, you are calm. As you complete the visualization, open your eyes and carry the image with you. The egg does not disappear when you stop thinking about it. You have constructed it, and it remains in place until you dismantle it or until it naturally dissolves at the end of the day. The science behind this practice is not mystical. You are using directed attention to organize your electromagnetic field. Attention is energy. Where you place your attention, energy flows. When you focus on the boundary of your field and imagine it as strong, coherent, and protective, your nervous system responds by tightening that boundary. Your heart rate variability improves. Your cortisol levels stabilize. Your mirror neurons become less reactive to ambient emotional frequencies. The visualization creates a psychological and physiological shift that manifests as increased resilience to external stresses. Skeptics will dismiss this as placebo, but placebo is not proof of ineffectiveness. Placebo demonstrates the power of belief to create measurable changes in physical systems. If believing you are protected makes you functionally protected by altering your nervous system, hormone levels, and behavior, then the belief is operationally valid. The third library does not care whether you understand the mechanism as energetic, psychological, or neurological. The third library cares that the technique works, and it works for thousands of practitioners who apply it consistently. Consistency is the key. The golden egg is not a one-time ritual. It is a daily practice, as routine as brushing your teeth. Just as plaque accumulates on teeth over the course of a day, psychic debris accumulates on your field. The egg is how you start each day clean. Some practitioners perform the visualization multiple times per day, once in the morning, once before difficult interactions, and once before sleep. Others find that a single morning practice is sufficient. Experiment to discover what your system requires. The goal is to make the practice so automatic that you can construct the egg in seconds without breaking stride. Advanced practitioners customize the egg. Some visualize it as mirror-like on the outside, reflecting negativity back to its source. Others see it as semi-transparent from the inside, so they can observe the world clearly while remaining protected. Some add layers: a golden outer shell, a silver inner lining, and a violet core. The specifics matter less than the consistency and clarity of the intention. Your subconscious responds to coherence. A simple, clear image held with conviction is more effective than an elaborate, complex visualization performed with doubt. Children take to this practice naturally because they have not yet been taught to dismiss imagination as unreal. If you have children, teach them the golden egg as early as they can understand the concept. Frame it as a game. Let's pretend we are putting on our invisible armor before we go to school. Children who learn this young develop robust energetic boundaries that serve them throughout life. They become less susceptible to peer pressure, less reactive to bullying, more capable of maintaining emotional regulation in stressful environments. You are giving them a tool that most adults never learn. The golden egg also functions as a diagnostic tool. If you perform the visualization and find it difficult to maintain the image, if the egg keeps flickering or developing holes, this is information. Your field is compromised. Something is draining you or attacking you that you have not yet consciously identified. Pay attention to where the holes appear. A gap at the solar plexus suggests emotional vampirism. A gap at the throat suggests suppressed communication or fear of speaking your truth. A gap at the crown suggests spiritual confusion or ungrounded psychic experiences. Use the location of the weakness to guide your investigation. You can repair the holes in real time. If you notice a weak spot during the visualization, direct additional energy there. See golden light pouring into the gap, filling it, sealing it. Breathe into the area. Send warmth and strength. The hole will close if you give it focused attention. Over time, as you repair the same weak spots repeatedly, they become permanently strengthened. The field learns to hold integrity in those areas without conscious effort. The practice also serves as a test for the people in your life. Notice who respects the boundary and who challenges it. Healthy people do not try to penetrate your shield. They interact with you at the level of the shell, engaging in reciprocal exchange without demanding access to your core. Vampires, manipulators, and boundary violators will find your new protection frustrating. They will escalate, probe for weaknesses, or accuse you of being distant. These reactions confirm that they were feeding on your permeability. The shield is working precisely because they can no longer feed. Some practitioners report that after consistent use of the golden egg, their entire life reorganizes. Draining relationships fall away. Opportunities aligned with their authentic path appear. They experience less illness, less anxiety, less of the chronic overwhelm that characterized their pre-shield existence. This is not magic. This is what happens when you stop hemorrhaging energy in 1,000 invisible ways and start conserving it for investments that actually serve your growth. The golden egg is the first line of defense, but it is not the only tool you need. It works in concert with the other practices detailed in this text: cord cutting, verbal boundary setting, energetic hygiene. Think of the shield as the lock on your door. It keeps casual intruders out, but it does not replace the need for alarm systems, security cameras, and situational awareness. The shield makes you harder to drain, but it does not make you invulnerable. Complete protection requires a multi-layered approach, and the egg is layer 1. Do not underestimate the simplicity of this practice. The most powerful techniques are often the most straightforward. Complexity is not a sign of sophistication. It is often a sign of insecurity, a need to make something seem more impressive than it is. The golden egg is potent precisely because it is simple, repeatable, and accessible. A child can do it. An executive in a high-stress meeting can do it. A parent in the middle of a chaotic household can do it. No special equipment. No elaborate ritual space. Just you, your intention, and 30 seconds of focused attention. Begin today. Right now. Before you continue reading, close your eyes and construct the egg. Feel the shell form around you. Assign it its function. Hold the image until it feels solid. Then open your eyes and notice how the room feels different. Notice the slight shift in your nervous system. That shift is your field responding to the command. That shift is the beginning of sovereignty. Practice daily, and within weeks the shield will become as natural as your own heartbeat, operating in the background of your awareness, protecting you without requiring conscious effort. The golden egg is your armor, your filter, your boundary made visible. Wear it always and let nothing through that does not serve your highest evolution. Chapter 5. The cord cutting. You are not as separate from your past as you believe. Every significant relationship you have ever had, every person you have loved, fought with, or been betrayed by, has left an energetic signature in your field. These signatures are not metaphors. They are connections, tubes of electromagnetic resonance that link your energy centers to theirs, stretching across physical distance and persisting long after the relationship has ended. These connections are called etheric cords, and they function like invisible cables through which energy flows. In some cases, the flow is mutual and nourishing. In most cases, the flow is one-directional, out of you and into them. These cords drain you quietly, constantly, without your conscious awareness. They are the reason you still feel anger when you think about someone you divorced 5 years ago. They are the reason you cannot move forward, even though you have physically left. The cords remain, and they must be cut. The solar plexus is the primary location where cords attach. This is your power center, the energetic hub located in the area of your diaphragm. When you form a close bond with someone, romantic, familial, or otherwise, a cord naturally develops between your solar plexus and theirs. In healthy relationships, this cord facilitates emotional resonance and connection. You feel each other, you support each other, the energy flows back and forth in balance. In toxic relationships, the cord becomes parasitic. One person siphons energy while the other depletes. The vampire pulls, the empath gives, and the cord grows thicker with each transaction until it resembles a pipeline rather than a thread. Cords do not dissolve on their own. Physical distance does not sever them. You can move across the country, block someone's number and swear never to think of them again. But if the cord remains intact, you are still connected. You will dream about them. Random things will remind you of them. You will feel phantom emotions that do not belong to your current circumstances. Emotions that are actually traveling through the cord from their field to yours. This is why people struggle to get over ex-partners, even years after the relationship ends. They are trying to heal while still energetically tethered to the wound. The cord-cutting ritual is the surgical removal of these attachments. It is not a metaphor. It is an operation performed at the level of your electromagnetic field, and like any surgery, it requires precision, focus, and follow-up care. The ritual is performed through visualization, but visualization is not fantasy. It is the language your subconscious understands, the interface through which you can interact with systems that operate below conscious awareness. When you visualize cutting a cord, you are instructing your nervous system to dissolve the neural pathways that sustain the energetic connection. Over time, with repetition, the pathways weaken, the connection fades, and you reclaim the energy that was being drained. The ritual is performed as follows. Find a quiet space where you will not be disturbed for at least 15 minutes. Sit comfortably with your spine straight. Close your eyes and take several deep breaths, allowing your body to settle. Once you feel centered, bring to mind the person from whom you wish to detach. Do not suppress your emotions. If anger arises, let it. If sadness comes, let it. The emotions are signposts showing you where the cord is active. As you hold this person in your awareness, shift your attention to your solar plexus. Visualize the area as a glowing center of golden light. Now, look for the cord. The cord may appear in your mind's eye as a rope, a tube, a thick cable, or a thin thread. The appearance varies based on the depth and duration of the connection. Long-term relationships generate thick cords. Brief but intense encounters may produce thin but sharp cords. Toxic relationships often produce cords that look diseased, discolored, or pulsing with dark energy. Trust whatever image arises. Your subconscious knows the state of the connection better than your conscious mind. Once you see the cord, follow it with your awareness. See where it extends from your solar plexus and stretches outward, connecting to the other person's field. You do not need to visualize the other person in detail. Simply acknowledge that the cord connects you to them. Now summon a tool. The most common tool is a sword made of light, brilliant, sharp, and imbued with your intention. Some practitioners prefer scissors, an axe, or a beam of laser-like energy. The tool matters less than the clarity of your intent. You are not attacking the person. You are severing the energetic link between you. Hold the sword in your mind's hand. Raise it above your head. Speak aloud or internally. I now sever this cord. I reclaim my energy. I release this connection. It is done. Then with decisive force, swing the sword down and cut through the cord. See it split cleanly. Watch as the severed ends recoil, the piece attached to you retracting back into your solar plexus, the piece attached to them snapping back to their field. The cutting is not the end of the ritual. The wound must be sealed. When the cord retracts into your solar plexus, it leaves an open channel, and open channels can be vulnerable to reattachment. Immediately after cutting, visualize golden light flooding into the severed end. See the light cauterizing the wound, sealing it completely. Some practitioners visualize a scab forming, then fresh tissue growing over the area, leaving smooth, healed skin. Spend at least a minute on this step. The sealing is as important as the cutting. You are closing the door permanently so that the connection cannot re-establish itself. After sealing your own wound, you may choose to send healing energy to the other person's severed end. This is not required, but it can prevent unconscious attempts at reattachment. Visualize their solar plexus also flooded with light, their wound also sealed. You are not fixing them. You are simply ensuring that the door is closed on both sides. This prevents them from reaching out energetically, whether consciously or unconsciously, to reconnect the cord. You are severing the relationship at the energetic level, creating the space for true separation. The ritual ends with a declaration, I am sovereign. My energy is my own. I release all that does not serve me. Open your eyes. Ground yourself by placing your hands on your thighs or the floor. Breathe deeply. You may feel lighter, calmer, or emotionally neutral toward the person when you think of them. This is a sign that the cutting was successful. You may also feel temporary sadness or grief. This is normal. You are mourning the loss of the connection, even if the connection was toxic. Allow the emotions to move through you without resistance. They will pass. Cords can attempt to re-establish. If you fall back into old patterns, texting the ex, dwelling on the toxic parent, replaying old arguments, you feed the remnants of the cord, and it begins to regenerate. Vigilance is required. Each time you catch yourself obsessing over the person, perform a mini cord cutting. Visualize the sword, sever the thread, seal the wound. With repetition, the cord loses the ability to reform. Eventually, thinking about the person produces no emotional charge. They become a neutral memory, a chapter closed. Some cords are more resistant than others. Cords formed in childhood, particularly with parents, can be deeply rooted in your subconscious. These may require multiple cutting sessions over weeks or months. Do not be discouraged if the cord returns after the first ritual. You're undoing years or decades of conditioning. Persistence is more important than perfection. Each cutting weakens the connection. Each sealing strengthens your boundary. Over time, even the most stubborn cord dissolves. Cord cutting is not about hatred or rejection. You can cut the cord and still love someone. You can sever the energetic attachment and still wish them well. The cord is not the relationship itself. It is the mechanism of entanglement that prevents both parties from existing as whole, independent beings. Cutting the cord is an act of love, both for yourself and for the other person. You are freeing them to find their own energy source instead of siphoning yours. You are freeing yourself to invest your vitality in relationships and pursuits that reciprocate. The practice extends beyond personal relationships. You can cut cords to jobs that drained you, to places where you experienced trauma, to belief systems that no longer serve you. Anywhere you feel energetically stuck, a cord likely exists. Identify it, visualize it, cut it, seal the wound. Reclaim your energy from the past so that it is available for the present. This is not spiritual bypassing. You are not pretending the past did not happen. You are ensuring that the past no longer has energetic access to your current field. Some practitioners perform a full cord-cutting inventory once per year, systematically severing any lingering attachments to people, places, or experiences that no longer serve. This annual cleanse is like defragmenting a hard drive, clearing out the background processes that slow down your system. The first time you do this, you may cut dozens of cords. The process can take hours. Subsequent years require less time as you maintain better boundaries and avoid forming parasitic attachments in the first place. The ultimate goal is to live in such a way that cords do not form unconsciously. This requires awareness during relationship formation. When you meet someone new, notice whether the connection feels reciprocal or draining. If you feel depleted after interactions, the cord is forming in an unhealthy direction. Address it early. Use the golden egg to prevent the cord from attaching deeply. Set verbal boundaries. Limit contact if necessary. Prevention is easier than surgery, but surgery is always available when prevention fails. Cord cutting is an act of sovereignty. You are declaring that your energy belongs to you, that access to your field is a privilege you grant consciously, and that you will not tolerate energetic theft, even if the thief is someone you once loved. This is not cruelty. This is self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships are built. Cut the cords, seal the wounds, reclaim your power, and move forward unencumbered by the ghosts of connections that should have ended long ago. Chapter 6. The Power of No. No is a complete sentence. It does not require justification, explanation, or apology. It does not need to be softened with a smile or buried in a paragraph of qualifications. No is the verbal equivalent of a shield bash, the linguistic boundary that protects your time, energy, and autonomy from those who would consume them without consent. Yet for most people, particularly those raised to be accommodating, saying no feels like an act of violence. It triggers guilt, fear of rejection, and anxiety about being perceived as selfish or unkind. This psychological resistance is not natural. It is trained, and it must be untrained if you are to maintain any semblance of energetic sovereignty. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you create a tear in your aura. The incongruence between your authentic feeling and your expressed action generates a dissonance that weakens your field. Your subconscious registers the betrayal. You told it that your boundary mattered, and then you violated that boundary to appease someone else. The subconscious learns that it cannot trust you to protect the system. Over time, this repeated betrayal erodes your sense of self. You become unclear about what you actually want, because you have spent so long prioritizing what others want from you. The practice of authentic refusal is not just about protecting your schedule. It is about restoring integrity to your energetic body. People-pleasing is a survival strategy, not a personality trait. It develops in environments where saying no resulted in punishment, withdrawal of love, or abandonment. The child learns that their value is contingent on compliance. They learn that disagreement is dangerous, that asserting their needs leads to rejection. This conditioning becomes wired into the nervous system as a trauma response. The adult continues the pattern, unconsciously scanning every interaction for signs of disapproval and adjusting their behavior to avoid triggering that disapproval. They become shapeshifters, presenting whatever version of themselves they believe will be most acceptable in the moment. This strategy has devastating consequences for the aura. A person who constantly adjusts their behavior to please others has no stable center. Their field fluctuates wildly, trying to match the expectations of whoever is in front of them. This instability makes them easy prey for manipulators, who quickly learn that pressure produces compliance. The people pleaser is trained to cave. Apply enough guilt, enough persistence, enough veiled threats, and they will abandon their boundary. The manipulator does not even need to be skilled. They simply need to be more committed to getting what they want than the people pleaser is to protecting what they need. The repair begins with a simple practice, saying no to low-stakes requests. Start small. When a telemarketer calls, do not explain why you are not interested. Say no thank you and hang up. When a coworker asks you to cover their shift and you do not want to, say, I can't. Do not invent an excuse. Do not justify. I can't is sufficient. Notice the discomfort this produces. Sit with it. The discomfort is not evidence that you have done something wrong. It is evidence that you are challenging a deeply ingrained pattern, and your nervous system is protesting the change. As you practice with low-stakes situations, gradually increase the difficulty. Say no to a friend who always expects you to listen to their problems, but never reciprocates. Say no to a family member who demands your presence at an event you do not want to attend. Say no to a romantic partner who pressures you for something you are not ready to give. Each no strengthens your boundary. Each no teaches your subconscious that you are capable of self-protection. The discomfort decreases with repetition. What once felt like jumping off a cliff eventually feels like closing a door. The door closes, the conversation ends, and life continues. You will lose people in this process. Some relationships only existed because you were willing to sacrifice yourself to maintain them. When you stop sacrificing, these relationships dissolve. This is not a failure. This is a revelation. These people were not connected to you. They were connected to your compliance, and when the compliance ends, they have no reason to stay. Mourn the loss if you must, but do not mistake it for evidence that boundaries are wrong. The loss simply confirms that the relationship was transactional, and you have chosen to stop paying the toll. The people who genuinely care about you will respect your no. They may be surprised at first, especially if you have spent years being accommodating. They may test the boundary to see if it is real, but if they are healthy, they will adjust. They will learn that you have limits, and they will respect those limits because they value the relationship more than they value unlimited access to your resources. These are the relationships worth keeping. These are the connections built on mutual respect rather than one-sided extraction. No also functions as a diagnostic tool. Pay attention to who reacts with anger, guilt-tripping, or manipulation when you refuse them. These reactions reveal the person's true relationship to your boundaries. A healthy person accepts no and moves on. A vampire escalates. They accuse you of being selfish, cold, or a bad friend. They remind you of all the times they have helped you, as though relationships are ledgers that must be kept balanced. They make your refusal about their worth, claiming that if you really loved them, you would say yes. This is emotional blackmail, and it must be met with unwavering firmness. I understand you are disappointed, but my answer is no. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your refusal. Explanations are invitations to negotiation. When you list your reasons, you give the other person ammunition to argue with each reason, to find loopholes to wear you down. No stands alone. If pressed, the only elaboration required is, because I have decided not to. Your decisions do not need to be justified to others. You are not on trial. You are exercising your fundamental right to govern your own life. The person demanding an explanation is attempting to claim authority over your choices. Do not grant them that authority. Verbal boundaries must be backed by behavioral enforcement. Saying no is the first step. Following through is the second. If you say no to attending a family event and then show up anyway after sufficient guilt-tripping, you have taught everyone involved that your no is negotiable. The guilt will intensify next time because the tactic worked. If you say no and hold the line, even when the pressure increases, you train others to take your refusals seriously. Enforcement is uncomfortable. You will feel like the villain. Let yourself feel like the villain. The discomfort is temporary. The respect you earn by holding boundaries is permanent. Children must be taught that no is a valid response. A child who is forced to hug relatives they do not want to hug is being taught that their bodily autonomy is less important than adult comfort. A child who is punished for refusing to share their toys is being taught that their possessions are not theirs to control. These lessons create adults who cannot protect themselves because they were never allowed to practice refusal in safe contexts. If you have children, model healthy boundary setting. Respect their no when it is reasonable. Teach them that they are allowed to refuse things that make them uncomfortable. You are not raising compliant robots. You are raising sovereign humans. The power of no extends to your internal dialogue. You can say no to intrusive thoughts, to compulsive behaviors, to the voice in your head that insists you are obligated to suffer. When the anxious thought arises that you must check your email at midnight, say no. When the impulse to doom scroll takes hold, say no. When the guilt tries to convince you that you should attend the event, even though it will drain you, say no. Your internal landscape respects boundaries, just as your external relationships do. The more you practice refusal, the quieter the demanding voices become. Some traditions frame boundary setting as unspiritual, claiming that evolved beings are available to all, that true love requires total self-sacrifice. These traditions create martyrs, not masters. A person who cannot say no cannot say a genuine yes. Their agreement is coerced compliance, not free choice. True generosity arises from overflow, not from obligation. You cannot give freely when you are giving because you are afraid of what will happen if you do not. The no that protects your reserves is what makes your yes meaningful. When you choose to help because you genuinely want to, not because you fear judgment, your contribution has power. It uplifts rather than depletes because it comes from surplus, not from debt. Practice begins now. Identify one person in your life who regularly disrespects your time, energy, or autonomy. The next time they make a request you do not want to fulfill, say no. Deliver it calmly, without apology and without elaboration. Observe their reaction. Notice your own discomfort. Breathe through it. Do not take back the no. Let the silence sit. You have just placed a stone in the wall that will protect you for the rest of your life. Each subsequent no adds another stone. Eventually, the wall is so high and so solid that only the people who respect boundaries can find the gate, and the gate only opens when you choose to open it. No is not the opposite of love. No is the boundary that makes love sustainable. Protect it, practice it. Let it become as natural as your breath. And watch as your life reorganizes around relationships that honor your sovereignty because you have finally learned to honor it yourself. Chapter 7. Purifying the vessel. Your aura is not the only field that requires maintenance. The physical body, the vessel that houses your consciousness, is also subject to energetic contamination. Just as you shower to remove dirt, sweat, and bacteria from your skin, you must cleanse the subtle residues that accumulate on and within your biofield. These residues are not visible to the naked eye, but they are detectable through sensation. You feel heavy, foggy, or vaguely unwell, despite having no diagnosable illness. You carry tension that does not release through normal rest. You sense that something is clinging to you, a psychic grime that distorts your perceptions and drains your vitality. This is not imagination. This is the accumulation of energetic debris, and it must be cleared regularly if you are to maintain optimal function. The most ancient and effective method of energetic cleansing is the salt bath. Salt, particularly unrefined sea salt or Epsom salt, has the capacity to absorb and neutralize electromagnetic charge. This is not folklore. Salt is hygroscopic, meaning it draws moisture and with it, dissolved ions and particles. When you immerse your body in salt water, you create a conductive medium that allows accumulated static electricity to discharge from your biofield into the water. The nervous system recalibrates. The muscles release tension they have been holding for days or weeks. The field becomes coherent again, no longer fragmented by the chaotic frequencies you have absorbed from your environment. The ritual is simple. Fill your bathtub with water as hot as you can comfortably tolerate. Add 2 to 4 cups of salt. Epsom salt is ideal because it contains magnesium, which supports nervous system function, but sea salt works equally well. As you add the salt, set the intention. This water purifies. It draws out all that does not serve me. I emerge clean, clear, and sovereign. Lower yourself into the water and remain submerged for at least 20 minutes. Longer is better, up to 40 minutes if your schedule allows. Do not bring your phone, do not read. Simply sit in the water and allow the discharge to occur. You may notice that the water feels different as the bath progresses. It may seem thicker, heavier, or somehow unpleasant. This is not your imagination. The water is absorbing the debris. Some practitioners report that the water becomes noticeably cooler, even though no cold water has been added, as though the energetic discharge is drawing heat from the bath. When you exit, do not reuse the water. Drain it immediately. As it flows down the drain, visualize all the contamination leaving your field and returning to the earth to be neutralized. Rinse your body with fresh water. Pat yourself dry with a clean towel. The salt bath should be performed weekly at minimum, more frequently if you work in high-stress environments, interact with energy vampires regularly, or are recovering from trauma or illness. Think of it as routine maintenance. You would not wait until your car engine seizes to change the oil. Do not wait until you collapse to cleanse your field. Prevention is more effective than repair. A weekly bath keeps the accumulation manageable. If you wait until you are in crisis, the bath helps but requires multiple sessions to clear the backlog of debris. Smoke cleansing is the second pillar of energetic hygiene. The practice of burning herbs to purify space and body predates recorded history. Every culture has developed some variation: sage, palo santo, frankincense, copal, juniper. The mechanism is consistent across traditions. When plant material is burned, it releases negatively charged ions and volatile organic compounds that interact with the electromagnetic field. The smoke changes the ionization of the air, breaking up stagnant energy and dispersing thought forms that have taken root in a space. This is not superstition. It is chemistry and physics applied to the subtle realm. White sage is the most commonly used herb in Western practice, though its popularity has led to overharvesting and cultural appropriation concerns. If you use sage, source it ethically. Alternatively, rosemary, cedar, or garden sage work equally well. Palo Santo, a South American wood, produces a sweet, resinous smoke that many find more pleasant than sage. The specific plant matters less than the quality of your intention. You are not performing a ritual to appease spirits. You are using smoke as a tool to reset the electromagnetic environment. To cleanse your body, light the herb or wood until it produces a steady stream of smoke. If using a bundle, blow out the flame so that it smolders rather than burns. Hold the smoke source in your dominant hand. Starting at your head, use your other hand to waft the smoke around your body. Move down your torso, your arms, your legs. Pay special attention to your solar plexus, heart and throat, the areas where energetic hooks most commonly attach. As you move the smoke, state your intention. I release all that is not mine. I clear my field. I am sovereign. Spend at least 5 minutes on this process. Do not rush. The smoke needs time to interact with your biofield. To cleanse a space, walk through each room with the smoke, paying attention to corners, doorways, and windows. These are transitional areas where stagnant energy accumulates. Waft the smoke into these spaces, visualizing the heaviness lifting and dispersing. If you live with others, explain what you are doing so they are not alarmed by the smoke. You are not performing an exorcism. You are airing out the house at an energetic level, clearing the residue of arguments, stress, and ambient negativity that has settled into the space like dust. Smoke cleansing should be performed after difficult interactions, after illness, after conflict, or whenever a space feels oppressive. Some practitioners cleanse daily as part of their morning routine. Others cleanse weekly or as needed. Trust your own sensitivity. If you walk into your home and it feels heavy, cleanse it. If you wake up feeling like something is wrong but cannot identify a concrete problem, cleanse yourself. Smoke is a reset button for the field, and there is no penalty for pressing it too often. Sound is another method of energetic purification, though less commonly practiced. Bells, singing bowls, tuning forks, or even clapping your hands in a rhythmic pattern can disrupt stagnant energy. Sound waves travel through air and through your biofield, breaking up patterns that have become fixed. A high-pitched bell, rung in each corner of a room, shatters low-vibration thought forms. A singing bowl played near your solar plexus can release emotional blockages. The mechanism is similar to using sound to shatter glass. Certain frequencies disrupt coherence in unwanted structures, allowing them to dissolve. Sunlight and fresh air are the simplest purifiers, available to everyone at no cost. The sun emits full-spectrum light and a broad range of electromagnetic frequencies that interact with your biofield in beneficial ways. Spending 20 minutes in direct sunlight resets your circadian rhythm, boosts vitamin D production, and clears psychic debris. The wind carries away stagnant energy that has been clinging to your field. This is why a walk in nature feels restorative. You're not just exercising your body. You're allowing natural elements to cleanse your field in ways that no indoor practice can replicate. Water from natural sources, oceans, rivers, lakes, carries additional purifying properties beyond what tap water offers. Ocean water, in particular, is highly conductive due to its salt content. Swimming in the ocean is one of the most powerful cleansing practices available. The combination of salt, movement, sun, and the rhythmic energy of the waves strips away layers of contamination in a single session. If you live near the ocean, immerse yourself regularly. If not, prioritize visits. The ocean is a reset button for the entire system. Diet also influences energetic clarity. Heavy processed foods lower your vibration, making your field more susceptible to contamination. Fresh, whole foods, particularly fruits, vegetables, and clean proteins, support a coherent biofield. Hydration is critical. Water conducts electricity. A dehydrated body is less capable of discharging accumulated static. Drink water throughout the day and notice how your mental clarity improves. You are not just hydrating cells, you are maintaining the conductive medium through which your electromagnetic field operates. Avoid alcohol and recreational drugs if you are serious about maintaining a strong field. These substances temporarily disrupt the boundary between your consciousness and the external environment. The field becomes permeable, vulnerable to attachment and intrusion. Occasional use may be manageable if your baseline field is strong, but chronic use guarantees energetic contamination. You are chemically disabling your defenses and then wondering why you feel invaded. If you struggle with substance use, address it as an energetic issue, not just a chemical one. You are self-medicating to escape an intolerable internal state, but the substances make that state worse by weakening the boundary that protects you. Sleep hygiene is energetic hygiene. Your field repairs during deep sleep. If you are not sleeping well, Your field cannot maintain integrity. Create a sleep environment that supports this repair. Dark, cool, quiet, free of electronic devices. The blue light from screens disrupts melatonin production and fragments your field. The electromagnetic radiation from phones and routers creates a chaotic background frequency that interferes with your body's natural rhythms. Turn off devices at least an hour before bed. Sleep in a room with minimal electronics. Notice how your dreams become more vivid and your morning energy improves. You are allowing the repair process to complete without interference. Purification is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice, woven into the fabric of your routine. A salt bath once a week, smoke cleansing after difficult days, sunlight and fresh air whenever possible. Clean food, clean water, adequate sleep. These are not luxuries. These are the basic requirements for maintaining a vessel capable of housing a strong, coherent consciousness. Neglect them, and your field degrades no matter how many visualizations you perform. Tend to them, and the visualizations become exponentially more effective because you are working with a system that is clean, clear, and responsive. The body is not separate from the aura. The physical and the energetic are two aspects of the same system. Purify the vessel, and the field strengthens. Strengthen the field, and the vessel becomes more resilient. The practices support each other, creating an upward spiral of vitality that becomes self-sustaining. This is how masters maintain their presence. They are not enduring extraordinary discipline. They have established routines that make strength the default state, and those routines begin with the simple ancient practices of cleansing the body and field with salt, smoke, sunlight, and intention. Purify daily, protect always, and let nothing dwell within your vessel that does not serve your evolution. Chapter 8. The Radiant Core. A weak light can be overwhelmed by darkness. A candle flame flickers and dies when surrounded by wind. But a sun, a star burning at the center of its own gravity, cannot be touched by shadow. Darkness is not a force, it is the absence of light. Increase the light beyond a critical threshold, and darkness cannot exist in its presence. This principle applies to energetic defense. You can build shields, cut cords, set boundaries, and purify your vessel, but these are defensive measures. They protect what you already have. The ultimate strategy is offensive, to become so luminous, so radiant, so saturated with high vibration energy that low vibration influences burn up upon contact with your field. This is not metaphor. This is the physics of consciousness applied to protection. Your core is the center of your energetic body, located in the area of your heart and solar plexus. When this core is weak, when you are depleted, purposeless, sick, or operating from fear, it generates a dim light. Your field is pale, easily penetrated, constantly needing external fortification. When your core is strong, when you are aligned with purpose, physically vital, emotionally regulated, and spiritually connected, it generates a blinding radiance. Your field becomes so bright that anything misaligned with your frequency cannot get close. Vampires feel uncomfortable in your presence. Manipulators avoid you instinctively. Low vibration thought forms dissolve before they reach your boundary. You do not repel these influences through effort. You simply outshine them. Building the radiant core requires work in multiple dimensions. The first is physical vitality. Your body is the hardware that runs the consciousness program. If the hardware is corrupted by poor nutrition, chronic illness, or lack of movement, the program runs poorly. You cannot generate high vibration energy from a depleted physical system. This does not mean you must be a perfect specimen. It means you must care for the body as though it matters, because it does. Eat foods that nourish rather than sedate. Move your body daily, not for aesthetics, but for the sheer aliveness that physical exertion produces. Sleep enough to allow cellular repair. Hydrate. These basics are not glamorous, but they are foundational. A sick body cannot sustain a strong field. The second dimension is emotional regulation. Emotional volatility destabilizes the core. When you swing between extremes, rage, despair, euphoria, panic, your field flickers like a malfunctioning bulb. The radiant core requires a stable emotional baseline. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means developing the capacity to feel deeply without being consumed by what you feel. You observe the anger without becoming the anger. You witness the sadness without drowning in the sadness. This is the difference between experiencing emotion and being hijacked by emotion. The radiant core is rooted in presence, the ability to remain centered even when the emotional weather is stormy. Emotional regulation is cultivated through practice. Breathwork is the most accessible tool. When you notice your emotions escalating, return to the breath. Slow, deep inhalations through the nose. Slow, complete exhalations through the mouth. The breath directly influences the nervous system. You cannot be in a state of panic while breathing slowly and deeply. The body interprets slow breathing as a signal that you are safe. The nervous system shifts from fight or flight to rest and digest. The emotions calm. The core stabilizes. This is not avoidance. This is regulation, the skill that allows you to navigate life without being overwhelmed by it. The third dimension is mental clarity. A mind cluttered with anxiety, obsession, and repetitive thought loops cannot generate coherent energy. The radiant core requires focus, the ability to direct attention deliberately, rather than allowing it to scatter across 100 concerns. Meditation is the traditional tool for developing this focus, though not everyone resonates with formal meditation. The principle is simple. Practice bringing your attention back to a single point when it wanders. The point can be your breath, a mantra, a visual object, or a physical sensation. The content matters less than the repetition. Each time you notice distraction and return to the point, you strengthen the mental muscle that controls attention. Over time, the mind becomes less chaotic. Thoughts arise and pass without hijacking your consciousness. Mental clarity also requires protecting your mind from contamination. The content you consume shapes your internal state. If you spend hours per day absorbing news designed to provoke outrage, your baseline emotional state becomes outrage. If you consume social media feeds curated to trigger envy, your baseline becomes dissatisfaction. If you immerse yourself in violent or degrading entertainment, your field absorbs that frequency. You are what you eat, and this applies to mental diet as much as physical diet. Curate your inputs carefully. Choose content that elevates, inspires, or educates. Refuse content that degrades, agitates, or numbs. Your mind is a garden. What you plant determines what grows. The fourth dimension is purpose. A person without purpose is drifting, reactive, easily influenced by external currents. A person aligned with purpose is a force of nature, directed by internal conviction. Purpose does not need to be grandiose. It does not require you to save the world. It simply requires that you know why you are here, what you are building, what you are committed to beyond your own survival and comfort. Purpose generates energy. It gives you a reason to wake up, to push through difficulty, to say no to distractions. The radiant core is fueled by this sense of direction. When you know where you are going, your energy aligns. The field becomes coherent because the life is coherent. Finding purpose is not a mystical process. It is a practical one. What do you care about? What problems do you want to solve? What skills do you want to develop? What legacy do you want to leave? Answer these questions honestly, and you have the beginnings of purpose. Then act. Purpose is not found through contemplation alone. It is clarified through action. You take a step, gather feedback, adjust, and take another step. Over time, the path becomes clear. The radiant core strengthens with each step, because you are living in alignment rather than in passive reaction to circumstances. The fifth dimension is spiritual connection, though this does not require religion. Spiritual connection is the recognition that you are part of something larger than your individual ego. You are a node in a vast network of consciousness, a wave in an infinite ocean. This recognition shifts your relationship to fear. When you identify solely as the body and the personality, death is the ultimate threat. When you recognize yourself as consciousness temporarily inhabiting a form, death becomes a transition rather than an annihilation. This shift reduces fear, and fear is the primary destabilizer of the radiant core. A person operating from existential terror cannot generate high-vibration energy. A person rooted in the knowing that they are fundamentally safe radiates invincibility. Spiritual practices that cultivate this connection include meditation, time in nature, creative expression, and service to others. These are not obligations. They are invitations to remember your larger nature. You do not need to practice all of them. You need to find the ones that resonate and integrate them into your life. A daily walk in the forest can be as spiritually nourishing as an hour of chanting in a temple. The form is less important than the sincerity of the engagement. When you touch the infinite, even briefly, your core lights up. That light persists for hours or days, strengthening your field and raising your frequency. The radiant core also requires joy. This is not the shallow pleasure of distraction or consumption. This is the deep joy that arises when you are fully alive, fully present, fully engaged with existence. Joy is not something you pursue. It is something you allow by removing the obstacles that block it. Fear blocks joy. Resentment blocks joy. Guilt and shame block joy. As you clear these lower frequencies through the practices outlined in previous chapters, joy emerges naturally. The radiant core is not built through grim discipline. It is built through the reclamation of your natural state, which is light, love, and aliveness. A person with a radiant core does not need to defend constantly. They walk through the world and negativity parts around them like water around a stone. They do not attract drama, because drama cannot match their frequency. They do not get entangled with vampires, because vampires instinctively avoid people who outshine them. The radiant core is not arrogance. It is not superiority. It is the natural result of a life lived in alignment with truth, health, purpose, and connection. It is what you become when you stop abandoning yourself to please others, when you stop poisoning your body with junk, when you stop cluttering your mind with garbage, when you stop drifting through life without direction. The work of building the radiant core is lifelong. There is no point at which you achieve permanent invulnerability. Life will challenge you. Circumstances will arise that test your light. You will have days where the core dims, where you feel the old patterns of fear and reactivity returning. This is normal. The goal is not perfection. The goal is resilience. The goal is to recover quickly when you stumble, to return to the practices that restore your light, to refuse to settle into darkness as a permanent state. Each time you recover, the core strengthens. Each time you choose alignment over convenience, the light grows brighter. Surround yourself with people who also tend their inner light. A single candle is easily extinguished, but 100 candles together create a bonfire. Community matters. Find others who are committed to the work of consciousness, who value sovereignty and growth over comfort and stagnation. These relationships do not drain, they amplify. You leave interactions feeling more energized, more inspired, more capable. This is the mark of healthy connection. Cultivate these relationships deliberately. Let go of those that require you to dim your light to make others comfortable. You are not here to shrink. You are here to burn. The radiant core is the final defense and the ultimate offense. It is the culmination of every practice in this text. The golden egg, the cord cutting, the boundaries, the purification. All of these tools prepare you to do the real work, which is to become a source of light so powerful that darkness cannot approach. Build the core. Feed it with vitality, purpose, joy, and truth. Tend it daily, and watch as your life transforms into something you no longer need to protect because it is too bright to threaten. You are not meant to hide your light. You are meant to let it blaze until shadows forget your name. Epilogue. You have reached the end of the instruction. The tools have been given. The principles have been explained. What remains is implementation, the daily practice of applying what you now know until it becomes as automatic as breathing. The etheric shield is not a theory to be admired. It is a discipline to be lived. Every technique in this text is useless if it stays on the page. Knowledge without application is entertainment, and you did not come this far to be entertained. You came to reclaim sovereignty over your energetic body, to stop the bleeding, to seal the perimeter, and to build a life where your vitality is yours to command. Understand that the work is not complete. The aura is not repaired in a single session. Boundaries are not established with one conversation. The radiant core is not built in a weekend workshop. You are undoing years, perhaps decades, of conditioning that taught you to abandon yourself, to prioritize others at your own expense, to mistake permeability for compassion. This conditioning is wired deep, encoded in neural pathways and habitual responses that activate before conscious thought. Rewiring takes time. It requires repetition. It demands that you choose differently in moments where every instinct screams to revert to the old patterns. You will fail. You will say yes when you mean no. You will absorb someone's stress despite having visualized the golden egg that morning. You will discover a cord you thought you had cut years ago, thriving in the shadows of your subconscious. These failures are not evidence that the work does not function. They are evidence that you are human, that growth is non-linear, that mastery is asymptotic rather than absolute. The question is not whether you will stumble. The question is whether you will get back up, return to the practice, and continue building the shield. Your energy is your life force. This is not metaphor. The vitality you feel when you wake in the morning, the clarity you bring to your work, the capacity you have for love, creativity, and connection, all of this depends on the integrity of your energetic field. When that field is compromised, everything suffers. Your health declines, your relationships deteriorate. Your work becomes burdensome. You drift through life in a fog of exhaustion, wondering why nothing feels satisfying, why you are always tired, why you cannot seem to access the aliveness you know is possible. The answer is simple. You are leaking energy in 1,000 invisible ways, and you have not been taught to stop the leaks. The etheric shield stops the leaks. It gives you a framework for understanding what has been happening to you, why certain people leave you feeling drained, why certain environments feel toxic, why you are so sensitive to the world around you. Sensitivity is not the problem. Permeability is the problem. Sensitivity without boundaries is a wound. Sensitivity with boundaries is a gift, the capacity to perceive subtle information without being destroyed by it. You can remain open to beauty, to love, to inspiration, while simultaneously closing the door on predation, manipulation, and energetic theft. The people in your life will notice the change. Some will celebrate it. They will tell you that you seem more grounded, more present, more yourself. These are the relationships worth investing in, the connections that honor your growth and benefit from your increased vitality. Others will resist. They will accuse you of being distant, selfish, or cold. They will miss the version of you that was always available, always accommodating, always willing to sacrifice your own needs for theirs. Let them miss it. That version of you was dying by degrees, and you have chosen to live instead. The relationships that cannot survive your boundaries are not relationships. They are extraction schemes, and their dissolution is a liberation. Do not expect applause for this work. The world does not reward people who refuse to participate in dysfunction. Society benefits from your compliance, from your willingness to suppress your needs, from your habit of absorbing stress without complaint. A population of boundaried, sovereign individuals is harder to manipulate than a population of depleted people-pleasers. You will face resistance not just from individuals, but from systems that depend on your permeability. Hold the line anyway. Your sovereignty is not negotiable. It is not up for debate. It is the foundation of your existence, and without it, you are simply a resource to be consumed by forces that do not care whether you survive. The work extends beyond the personal. As you strengthen your field, you become a model for others. You demonstrate that it is possible to be kind without being exploited, to be sensitive without being destroyed, to move through the world with open-hearted presence while maintaining clear boundaries. People will notice. Some will ask how you do it. Share the tools. Teach the techniques. The third library does not hoard knowledge. It distributes it to those ready to receive it. Every person who learns to maintain their field contributes to a collective strengthening, a raising of the baseline vibration that makes predation less viable and sovereignty more accessible. Protect your energy like gold. You would not leave your wallet on a park bench and expect it to be there when you return. Do not leave your aura unguarded and expect to remain vital. Your energy is the currency with which you build your life. Spend it wisely. Invest it in people, projects, and pursuits that reciprocate. Refuse to hemorrhage it on interactions that return nothing but depletion. You are not a charity. You are not an infinite well. You are a finite being with finite resources, and those resources must be allocated consciously if you are to accomplish anything meaningful with the time you have. Rule your kingdom. You are the sovereign of your own consciousness. Your field is your territory. The borders are yours to define. The gates are yours to open or close. No one enters without your permission. No thought form, no emotion, no energy takes root in your space unless you allow it. This is not isolation. This is governance. A king who leaves the castle gates open is not generous. He is a fool. You can welcome guests into your domain without abandoning the walls that protect it. Hospitality does not require vulnerability to invasion. Let no thief enter. You know now what theft looks like. It is the person who always takes and never gives. It is the environment that demands your presence, but offers no nourishment in return. It is the pattern of thought that keeps you small, afraid, and compliant. These thieves are evicted not through force, but through refusal. You stop feeding them your attention. You stop granting them access. You seal the cracks through which they entered, and when they test the perimeter, you hold firm. The thieves move on when they realize you are no longer an easy target. Your vigilance makes theft impossible. The final instruction is simple. Seal the perimeter, daily, vigilantly, without exception. The golden egg in the morning, the cord cutting when attachments arise, the boundaries when they are tested, the purification when contamination accumulates. The cultivation of the radiant core through vitality, clarity, purpose, and joy. These are not separate practices. They are aspects of a single discipline, the maintenance of your energetic sovereignty. Neglect one, and the others weaken. Tend all, and they reinforce each other, creating a structure so strong that it becomes your default state. You are not broken. You were never broken. You were permeable, and permeability can be corrected. The tears in your aura can be sown. The weak spots can be fortified. The leaks can be sealed. The work is not mystical, it is practical. It is the application of consistent, intentional effort to a system that responds predictably when you give it what it needs. You would not expect a plant to thrive without water, sunlight, and nutrients. Do not expect your field to thrive without visualization, boundaries, purification, and purpose. Give it what it needs, and it will protect you with a strength you have not yet experienced, but will soon remember as your natural state. The etheric shield is complete. The membrane of your soul has been repaired. You are now the guardian of the gate, the sovereign of your own energetic domain. Walk through the world knowing that nothing enters your field without your consent. Nothing drains your vitality without your permission. You are sealed, protected, radiant, and whole. The work continues, but the foundation is solid. Build from here, and never again apologize for the boundaries that keep you alive. Seal the perimeter, rule your kingdom. Let no thief enter. This is the teaching. The gate is yours to guard.